Hi, Deepak.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah.
Maybe we can start off with a personal question. What is your daily routine for maintaining health and well-being?
Well, I usually wake up anywhere between 4 and 6, depending on what time I sleep. So sometimes I sleep at 8, sometimes I sleep at 10. In any case, I wake up between 4 and 6, and then after I wash myself, etc., I do about 3 to 4 hours of meditation, pranayam, yoga, and some inquiry. And then that's it. The rest of the day, I do whatever is needed to do.
And what about nutrition? Do you have any guidelines for
Yeah,
that?
I'm mostly plant-based, maximum diversity of plant-based food, organic, not anything that comes from a factory or is processed, refined, manufactured, or has sugar.
Yeah.
That's it.
What tip could you give to people, who don't have time for, or don't get up that early and don't have 2-3 hours to do their practice? Like, what do you think the most important thing is to have this daily habit for well-being?
Having practiced yoga now for 50 years, 45 years, non-stop, and meditation for the same amount of time, 45 years, I think if you do actually make the time, everything becomes very simple. Everything becomes very effortless, in my view. So I say only busy people have time. People who are not busy, they never have time. They just make excuses. But I realize there are different stages. So right now, if most people are their priorities, fame, fortune, money, etc., then even they could benefit from 15-20 minutes of silent meditation, some little bit of yoga and breathing, because both silence and activity go together, and you need both. So I'm maybe too hardcore, but I monitor everything in my life, including sleep, dreams, every experience I'm aware of. So for me, it's easy actually. Those are the 2-3 hours that are most precious. Then everything else happens very spontaneously. I don't plan. I don't prepare. Even when I write books, I have no idea what I'm writing about. Just I write.
Would you say you're in flow?
I am in flow, yes. Yeah.
What does it mean for you to be in flow?
Means no resistance. Either you're in resistance or you're in flow. Resistance is when you are very outcome oriented, very attached to the outcome, or when you have regrets, or when you are, what I call very much what people call ego identity is resistance, actually. Okay. And if you just let it dissolve into what we call empty, vast, fundamental reality, then there's no resistance, there's flow. Flow means no anticipation, no regrets, no resistance, and everything happening spontaneously. So in yoga, that is the ideal state. It's frequently called by different names. So Ichha Shakti means the divine energy, feminine, usually referred to as feminine. Ichha means desire. So spontaneous fulfillment of desire, in that even though you're not actively pursuing an outcome, synchronicity happens. Okay, synchronicity, because that's the nature of our awareness. So that's called Ichha Shakti. And then there's another word that's used, Kriya Shakti. Kriya means action without karma. Karma is when action recycles into experience. So most of us have the same experience every day. There's no creativity. But creativity comes from actually not having a specific outcome in mind. When there's no outcome in mind, then the right response again to every situation as it happens creatively. So that's called Kriya Shakti. No karma, no binding, no entropy, no squeezing, no resistance. And the third Shakti that is frequently referred to in yoga is called Ananda Shakti. Ananda, usually translated as bliss or joy, not happiness. Happiness is a mental state, opposite of sadness. Joy is independent of happiness or sadness. It's what you see in a baby, no reason but happy. Joy, curiosity, wonder. So that, I would say, is flow. So it's valuable to do yoga, therefore.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So beautiful. I would love to touch on what's going on in the world right now. As someone deeply invested into spirituality and well-being, what is your perspective on the current state in the world?
The current state in the world is very dismal. If you think of social injustice, if you think of gender injustice, if you think of economic injustice, if you think of racial injustice, if you think of climate change, if you think of mechanized weapons and death and drones and nuclear warfare and cyber warfare, if you think of depression and mental disease and suicide and all kinds of chronic illnesses and total absence of joy, I think the world is sleepwalking to extinction.
Okay, that's really dark.
This is a human created problem. The last extinction was 65 million years ago when a meteorite fell on this planet. And, the dominant species then was dinosaurs. And they got wiped out in a matter of days. So I think if humans get wiped out, maybe another species might emerge. Meta-humans. Because humans are very interesting species, but I don't think the evolutionary experiment worked. It was a good experiment, but I think it's a failed experiment. Either we evolve or we go extinct, and nobody's missing dinosaurs right now. In fact, if dinosaurs hadn't gone extinct, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation. We emerged because of that extinction. So, who knows? Evolution is a very strange phenomenon. I don't believe that it's random. I think evolution is evolution of consciousness. Ultimately, there's only one thing that can evolve, and that's consciousness. It's not your biology that evolves. Biology follows evolution. So, every biological species is actually a form of evolution of consciousness. Whether it's bacteria or viruses or reptiles or primates or humans, we are examples of the evolution of consciousness. Our biology is a byproduct of that. Now, that's not conventional thinking, but it's yogic thinking. In the world of yoga, only consciousness can be conscious. Nothing. Your body is not conscious. Your mind is not conscious. In fact, your body and mind are experiences in consciousness. So once you get to the source of that, you can choose to consciously evolve. So when I'm saying that, humans need to evolve to the next stage of evolution, because what the product we have right now is a very fragmented, separate, fearful, anxious, egocentric product of evolution.
Yeah.
And that spells extinction.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe it's not too late that we evolve. Like how, or what spiritual insights can you give us to navigate through these times right now? Because I also feel in the last year, it's like people get more fearful, and it's really like we're living in the unknown right now. Or a lot of people feel that way. Yeah.
I think the key to evolution is to understand what is reality, and people take their experiences to be reality. But anything you experience, anything conceptual or perceptual cannot be real, because perception and conception are actually projections of our consciousness. They're objects of our consciousness. They're not the source of our experience. But this is the fundamental problem. We confuse projection, or what you might say illusion, for reality. The German philosopher Wittgenstein, he said our life is a dream. We are asleep, but sometimes we wake up enough to know that we're dreaming. The Buddha said this lifetime of ours, transient as autumn clouds, to watch the birth and death of beings is like looking at the movements of a dance. A lifetime is like a flash of lightning in the sky rushing by, like a torrent down a steep mountain. So if I asked you what happened to your childhood, you'd say it's a dream. If I asked you what happened to your teenage years, you'd say it's a dream. But what about yesterday? That's a dream. What about this morning? No, it's a dream. What about 5 minutes ago? It's a dream. What about these words? By the time you hear them, they don't exist. By the time you see me and you recognize me, this morning, you came out of the elevator, you recognize me. Okay, but what you recognized was because you had seen an image or something before. So everything you see, by the time you see it, by the time you hear it, by the time you perceive it, doesn't exist. Okay, so we are both right now fictional characters in a dreamscape. And if you really recognize them, then you say, who or what is dreaming? What is it that dreams? Okay, unless you ask that question, you'll never wake up. Okay, but once you wake up to who or what is dreaming, then you see the dream is ungraspable. Every experience is ungraspable. We cannot reproduce the experience. I came out of the elevator and you said, I'm Vadim, that's over. But even these words, by the time you hear them, they're over. Okay, so if you wake up, then you realize that the dreamer is independent of the dream. And the dream includes your body, includes your mind, because what you call your body is a changing perceptual activity, sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, including what you call your mind. That's the object. What is doing the dream? That is a universal awareness, and actually that's who we are. But that universal awareness is dreaming human dreams, insect dreams, crocodile dreams, bacterial dreams, COVID-19 dreams, all of that. I think the most intelligent organisms on our planet are actually bacteria and viruses. And we are the awakening of bacterial consciousness. But it's not enough. We have to awake from the human consciousness right now. So, the dominant organisms on this planet are still genes of bacteria and viruses. And we depend on them. Even our microbiome, everything is that.
Yeah. I would like to go back to this waking up moment. I think I can speak for a lot of people like who are also like really interested in well-being and spirituality, read maybe your books and others. Like you feel that there's a truth, but you know what I mean? Like how do you really know when you wake up? Because this is your reality. You know what I mean?
There's no anxiety.
There's no anxiety. You just know, or?
No, there are certain milestones. I mean, in fact, we now are looking at milestones for those who feel that they're waking up. There's no clinging, there's no grasping, there's no recoiling. There's clarity of experience. There is a sense of non-doership. It's all happening and it's fine. There is no fear of death, and there is the emergence of what we call platonic values: truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, love, compassion, joy, equanimity. Actually, those are the three fundamental experiences of all religious traditions too. You know, these days people think they're very sophisticated when they say, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. It sounds nice, secular. But the religious and spiritual experience is the same thing. One is transcendence. You know your identity is not body and mind, but a fundamental awareness which has no cause and which is infinite. Number two, you feel spontaneous compassion and joy and equanimity. And number two, you don't have the fear of death. And that comes slowly from a realization. You say, where is this experience happening? This experience right now. It's not happening in the brain, obviously, because the brain only has electrochemistry, okay? This experience of seeing is not happening in the eyes. The eyes are this big, and you know, by the time light goes into your retina, it crosses over, your retina is curved. If this experience of seeing was happening in the eyes, you'd see two of me upside down, curved. Well, obviously that's not happening. You say, well, then it's happening in my brain. Well, how did this room fit into your brain? Okay, there's only electrochemistry in your brain. So the only way you can answer this question is, only way this experience of body, mind, physical universe is happening in consciousness or awareness, same thing. They say, where is this awareness? You can't see it. And why can't you see it? Because it has no form. And if it has no form, then it must be infinite, borderless. And if it's infinite, it's not in time. So just follow this logically. This experience is being processed outside of space-time. This experience is being processed outside of space-time, and the real you is outside of space-time. So you never left home. All you did is dream. And you know, then you held on to the dream. You got lost as the dreamer. You got lost in the dream. You know, you thought you were playing Cleopatra, and now you suddenly think you're Cleopatra. Okay, and then you get all mortified because Cleopatra is subject to birth and death. But if all experience is being processed from outside space of time, then you must be there, which means there's no birth, there's no death, nothing of that. It's a human concepts based on very limited understanding of perception. What you experience is a magical lie. Everything you experience is a lie. Your experience tells you the earth is flat. Who believes that anymore? Your experience tells you that this ground is stationary. We know it's spinning at dizzying speeds, hurtling through space thousands of miles an hour. My experience tells you I see a three-dimensional woman in a blue dress and, you know, blonde hair or whatever. But that's not who you are. That's a projection. And so if I could see you as you really are, I'd see you and me and everything we see is proportionately as void as intergalactic space. You would see a few scattered dots, spots, some random electrical discharges, and even those are perceptual artifacts. In fact, everything is made of nothing, and that nothing is not an empty void. It's the womb of creation. It's divine. It's Allah, it's Brahman, it's Ein Sof, it's God, whatever you want to call it. The name is not important. But once you realize this, there's no problem of anything, including extinction.
Then you still...
What goes extinct is a dream. Okay, so you say, why bother then doing exercise and following plant-based diet and doing yoga? It's good to upgrade the dream. If you're going to dream, you might as well enjoy the dream.
Exactly. It's like enjoy the human experience, right?
Yeah, enjoy the dream.
Yeah.
But don't get bound by it.
Yeah. Your work often speaks of maintaining balance, not just within ourselves, but also with the world around us. How can we become stewards or earth keepers in our daily lives?
Begins with reflection. Who am I? What am I? Am I the fluctuations of consciousness, or am I consciousness fluctuating? What is my deepest desire? Do I have a purpose? Or do I have a calling? What am I grateful for? Why do I exist? People are not surprised by their existence. I took a walk this morning, here outside the hotel. Everybody's walking around as if this is normal. They should be surprised. What is this? Okay. If you're not perpetually surprised by your existence, then what's the point? I mean, here we are having this experience. Why? What caused it? If you get to that state of being bewildered instead of being clever, then maybe you can do something. We're too clever. And our cleverness has created climate change and nuclear bombs and cyber hacking and drones and all that. That's being clever. It's better to be, as Rumi the poet said, be bewildered. Exchange your cleverness for bewilderment. Then you'll have humility.
Okay. What do you think about the evolution of technology right now? Do you think it's a good thing?
Evolution of technology is part of our dream. It's also part of our evolution. So if you say get rid of technology, you can't, right? It's there. I mean, if you're using technology just now to communicate with people, and this is only the beginning. Now we have AI and deep learning and machine learning and all kinds of Web3 and metaverse. It's unstoppable. And so either we adapt or we become, again, extinct in this dream, in this dreamscape. So the question is not whether we stop technology. The question is, how do we use it? And how we use it, again, depends on our state of consciousness. We're not using it right now. Except we're having this conversation. That's a good use.
Yeah. And also when we talk about technology, we have this information overload, and a lot of people have anxiety, depressions, and are overwhelmed. Like, where is this going right now? Because it seems like this coming more and more, and the world is going faster and faster. How do you see this development?
If you realize that the unknown is the only reality, then there's no anxiety, right? Because everything we call the known has already happened. It doesn't exist. The unknown is where creativity happens. So if you accept the unknown, then you say, okay, now I'm in the unknown. It's in the field of all possibilities. Unknown is all possibilities. What do I choose? If you can use technology to create a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, joyful world, then technology is very useful. And that also people are doing. They're creating global communities. In the Buddhist tradition, they say, take refuge in the Sangha, the community, take refuge in the Buddha, higher consciousness, take refuge in the Dharma, which is purpose. And technology can help do that, online, offline.
Yeah, it's heaven and hell at the same time.
That's right.
Yeah. But still, like, we have these increasing rates of depression, anxiety worldwide. And what role do you believe spirituality and holistic health practices?
Well, our Chopra Foundation has a program called Never Alone. www.neveralone.love. Check it out. It's a non-profit, and it's engaged in mental well-being and also suicide prevention. And we are using technology. So we have emotional AI that talks to people, and we found that teens, in teenage groups, suicide now is the second most common cause of death. Every 40 seconds, somebody in the world is dying from suicide. Our emotional chatbot, her name is Piwi, Piwi, and she has now intervened in 6,000 suicide ideations, 25 million conversations, text messages being exchanged simultaneously. And we found that teens are more comfortable talking to her than to a human being because she doesn't judge them and she knows them and she becomes friends. What did you eat for dinner last night? Did your girlfriend, boyfriend call you back? Did you enjoy the movie? Who did you connect with? And this is a good use of our technology right now, emotional AI. And so we can use technology to help people create sanghas, prevent suicide.
Yeah.
And we actually focus on 4 things through this technology: attention, deep listening; affection, deep caring and compassion; appreciation, noticing the uniqueness of each person; and what we call radical acceptance. So 4 A's: attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. And technology is helping us. And we were thinking, oh, this is in English, we should have it in French, in Spanish. I was going to Saudi Arabia to say we can do it in Arabic, Persian. Now we have technology automatically translates that also. So that's good use of technology.
Yeah. When we put technology aside, like, what other guidance or spiritual practices could you refer to someone who's suffering from depression, anxiety?
The best way to be happy is to make somebody else happy. Relationship is the key, because we don't exist in isolation.
The relationship is also not always easy. Relationship.
We think we exist, and that's relationships are not easy because we think we are separate beings. Once you get rid of that notion, the separate self is a socially induced hallucination, then actually relationship becomes the most important and fun thing, activity, because it's not about the separate self. It's not about the hallucination.
If you compare relationship, how you see it and how most of the people see it, like, can you make the link between
I think in relationship, people always are thinking about their separate identity, what they can get out of a relationship. But if you think, what can I give, then actually you get what you need anyway.
That's beautiful. In your perspective, how does trauma impact our spiritual growth and personal development?
Even if you don't remember trauma, there is trauma. There is trauma in childhood. Somebody says something verbally. There's physical trauma. There's sexual trauma. There's the trauma of birth. Now we know there's epigenetic evidence for ancestral trauma influencing our gene activity. People who were victims of the Holocaust, they have suffered trauma which is generationally passed on. In animals, you can see that if you expose a mouse to a good smell that the mouse loves, but you also add some mild electrical shocks, the trauma will continue for 7 generations in the mouse. So trauma is there, period, except that. And what we call anger is the memory of trauma. What we call hostility is the desire to get even. What we call anxiety is the anticipation of trauma again. What we call guilt, shame is blaming yourself for the trauma because, some religious institution said it's your fault. And then, all of that leads to depression. So that's the number one pandemic right now, depression as a result of trauma. And the only way to heal that, again, is to first recognize that there is trauma. And secondly, to get in touch with that part of yourself, which is independent of that, because trauma is an experience. And it's an intergenerational experience that's recycled by the social mind, our socially constructed mind. The only way to get trauma is actually go beyond the experience of trauma. You can't erase the trauma because memory is also in consciousness. You can overshadow it with love and compassion and joy, what again the wisdom traditions call divine emotions.
But you can solve them.
You can overshadow them. But memory is irreplaceable. It's what recycles as this body. So this body is not a conceptual thing. This body is not a physical entity. It's a combination of sensations, images, feelings, thoughts. If you close your eyes, the body disappears. All you have is memories, pleasant and unpleasant. If pleasant memories create good feeling, unpleasant memories create uncomfortable feeling. And you have both, okay, because all experience is by contrast. So this is a conceptual, or what they say, karmic body, okay, and it will recycle unless you transcend. You go to the source, which is independent of this conceptual body, is the body of bliss, the body of joy. And that is already healed. It's the return to the memory of wholeness.
The trauma is there, but
you're independent of it.
Yeah, okay.
You're independent of the pleasant and the unpleasant.
Yeah.
You're joyful.
And can you make the link between trauma and the nervous system? Because there's...
the nervous system is what creates the biological correlates of experience, including traumatic experience. So what you call your brain activity is gene activity. And what we call gene activity is epigenetic activity, is the memories that are recycling. So every traumatic experience has an epigenetic correlate that causes inflammation, causes dysfunction of the organism, causes depression, anxiety, has biological correlates for sure. But the biological correlates are also the recycling of memory. Memory is not in the brain, memory is in consciousness. So, and there are memories of good and bad. It's not just trauma, because you only recognize trauma because you know the opposite. Okay. Just like you only recognize up if you know down, or hot if you know cold. So, when people say, I want to be happy all the time, it's like a pendulum that swings only in one direction. It's not impossible. For the pendulum to be a pendulum, it has to swing in both directions. But there's something behind that is independent. Think of your television screen and there's a program. And the program is you, me, everybody here, And the program will come and go, but the screen is always there, okay? The screen is independent of the program. In fact, you can have infinite programs on the screen. They're all in time, and they have to be through contrast. You go to a movie where only good scenes, you'll walk out in 5 minutes. Okay. So, for any story to be a story, you have good, you have bad, you have heroes, you have villains, you have sacred, you have profane. It's all the melodrama of experience. But behind that is an awareness totally independent of that. If you identify with that, then you can enjoy the scenery, whatever it is, whatever the program is. Because it's in time. You are not in time. This is people say, what's the mental solution to mental suffering? And the answer is, there's none. Okay, even peace of mind is an oxymoron, because mind is never at peace. So what do you mean, peace of mind? Okay, just like when we say hope means you must have despair. Otherwise, why would you need hope? Hope, despair, peace, or trauma, they all are, mental concepts. The reality is totally independent of all of that. Therefore, there's no mental solution to mental illness or mental. The only solution is spiritual. Only solution is spiritual. That we're not there as a world. We're thinking drugs, we're thinking pharmaceuticals, we're thinking psychotherapy, we're thinking AI, which is all, alleviate suffering, but it'll never get rid of suffering. Okay. The only way to get rid of suffering is to find your spirit.
And do you have hope that a lot of people will find this spirit?
When they lose their separate identity, they will find it. Yeah.
Beautiful. A good way would maybe start also with educating children. I would love to talk about the school of the future. If you could design the school of the future, how would it look like?
The school of the future would be about self-realization, and then delegate all information to AI. AI is not wisdom, okay? AI is knowledge. It is intelligent. It is super intelligent, because it can combine linguistic language with artistic language, musical language, mathematical language, biological language. But being super intelligent doesn't mean being awake. And two different things. So I think if I could design a school, and I've had the desire to do that, if somebody actually goes for the idea, and maybe somebody is listening to this, they'll say, let's do it right here in Berlin or Basel or wherever. But that school would be a school for self-realization, starting children with basic inquiry. Who am I? What do I want? What is my purpose? What am I grateful for? What is the meaning of existence? Why do I exist? How do I unleash my intuition, my creativity, my higher vision, my capacity for love, for compassion? If we took care of that and then used information and knowledge, this would be a different world. We could have a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world. I think what we have created is a world based on data and information, and not on wisdom. Wisdom is the capacity of sustaining the joy of existence. It's not, making money. I meet every day young entrepreneurs, and they're very, very kind of, happily, and sometimes almost to the point of great pride and arrogance. They tell you how much money they've made, how many exits they have. They're not thinking about their final exit, which is what we call physical death. You know, that's the exit. Do you want that exit to be all about these little exits you made, or do you want it to be a joyful exit?
Do you have any examples where you worked with children that learned these skills from a young age?
The Indian philosopher J. Krishnamurti founded some schools in India. They're called Rishi Valley School. Then there was a school in Ojai, California. And there's still a school in England, in Brockton Park. And the graduates of these schools are quite extraordinary. But even there, I think I would go even more deeper in those, in educating people about.
In your school of the future? In your school of the future?
It doesn't have to be called my school.
No, but we're talking about your idea of a school.
Yeah, no, I think the school of the future would be schools for enlightenment.
That's so beautiful.
That's the only solution.
And how do you, if you see like a children's brain and an adult brain, they learn faster, right? Or they would we maybe really approach it in a different way?
Children, you can teach them anything.
Yeah.
Children come, of course they come with a little karmic, traumatic, epigenetic history too. I know, but even if you see two identical twins, they have different personalities. So there's some software there already, programming. And that programming is the programming of your ancestors going back 40,000 years to hunter-gatherers, basically. And we assume that that's the only programming you can give a child, you know, teach it the alphabet and teach it to count. And then everything else will happen, you know, biology, this, that, the other. Now, those are very good skills, by the way, because without that, we can't even communicate. But you can coach a child to do anything. You pick up a child in a gutter in Bangladesh or Calcutta or wherever and, you know, adopt the child in some Boston family and he's a professor in Harvard 20 years later. All that consciousness is infinite in its creative capacities. We're just training consciousness to further separate ourselves from each other. If we just allowed consciousness to bloom, infinite creativity, intelligence, joy, our consciousness, and transcendence, and love as the ultimate truth.
What is your definition of love?
Love is not a sentiment or emotion. It's the ultimate truth at the heart of the universe. It's unity consciousness.
Beautiful. How important are environmental conditions and lifestyle choices in shaping our health outcomes?
We are, on one level, we are the localization of the environment. So when people say, I have a thought, it's not an original thought, it's recycled what everybody else is thinking. Everything is recycled. And, you know, what we call the individual mind is the social mind. So that's one way of looking at it. The other is that the environment is also a projection of ourselves. Okay, so when environment includes not just the physical environment, it includes social environment, professional environment, mental environment, relationship environment, connection to the ecosystem, universe. It's all the same thing. You know, again, this our language has a problem. Me and the universe. But this air is your breath. COVID showed us that, okay? The air is our breath. You couldn't cut it up. Whether it's in China or Berlin, doesn't matter. Okay? The earth is recycling as your body. And, the rivers and oceans are your circulation. And the atoms in your body were made in the crucible of stars. So we call it the world, but it's your body. You put a rabbit in a vacuum, it dies. You put a plant in a vacuum, it dies. You put them both together, they both thrive. So there's no environment. You have a personal body, you have a universal body, they're equally yours.
Yeah, true. For the last question, like, what are you working on right now? What can we expect from you?
I have a book on AI and consciousness that I'm doing. This year I have a book called Quantum Body with a quantum physicist and a endocrinologist like me. So we have three authors. Then I have a book on AI that I'm doing myself. And then I'm doing a book on self-realization again, you know, the how-to of self-realization, if there is.
How many books have you written now? Almost 100, right?
93, something like that.
What's going to be the 100th book?
I may not get there.
Maybe. You're so fast in writing books.
Yeah, we'll see.
Any last message for the viewers out there for the end?
Take it easy.
Take it easy.
That's it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Deepak.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, Delia.
And
nice to talk to you.
See you soon.